Welcome everyone. Today I have a special episode for you. We're into the second half of the Amsterdam tour. And along with that, there's a brand new pipe featuring an entire set, two entire sets in fact, of Daisy characters. One of them is new. One of them is from the first year of the game, back in 2020. It was actually one of the first tours I played. So what I'm going to do in this episode is I'm going to produce a character guide. If you are a Daisy fan, then let's take a look at just what this character can do. Oftentimes when we analyze the metagame, it's looking at the entire range of possibilities. And a lot of times that is over-centralized around the premium plus skill items such as Coin Box, Boomerang, Giant Banana, Lucky 7, and Triple Banana, but there is a pathway in the game where you can find enjoyment and also competitive intrigue by basing your account around specific things that are of specific interest to you. Mario Kart Tour is such a rich ecosystem that there's a pathway forward for you to create your own terrain, your own metagame, and the forces, the framework of Mario Kart Tour will form around the basis of your account, right? So perhaps the potential is not there to crush the game, go all the way to the maximum tier. However, you can still go extraordinarily far, even up to near the maximum tier with the proper optimization around such strategies. And that's of particular interest to me because I am a character-driven player myself, and I seek to optimize the game around those characters of interest. So if you're a Daisy fan, this one's going to be really special. As always, please show your support with the channel, leaving a like on this video and subscribing. We're on to so many marvelous things. The data from this presentation is being generated from the Coverage Optimizer, which is a creation of a turtle dude. We are providing that service open and free to all. In our Discord, the software that you can run and operate on your own is not too far off, right? Several weeks away, and then that will be made available to you to run on your own. So currently it's just operating on requests. If you need any assistance with that, be sure to ask in our Discord, and one of the helpful members will be of assistance to you. So let's get into Daisy and her value. And I'll put the chart to the right that shows just the overview of each of the high-end characters' value, right? There's 5 of them. Started off with Holiday Cheer, and each one of these really shows the progression and the inflation of value in Mario Kart Tour and how that's expanded throughout the years. So Daisy had 2 characters, actually 3, that debuted in the first year of the game, although the third one was very close to that first anniversary tour. So Holiday Cheer has 16 courses of assumed value. These are the retro courses, the ones that are not locked behind specific events. And this is considered relatively low by today's standards. And this forms the basis of the terminology that I use here on the channel, year 1 syndrome, right? This isn't the kind of value that you would expect to be pulling for a brand new 100 pipe item such as Daisy Farmer that's debuting in this tour. And along with that, there's 9 nitro courses of value. So that brings her up to 25, which for that time was a respectable number, right? But standards have changed and the value on these old items hasn't been caught up entirely. But this isn't a bleak picture for the Daisy character metagame because it comes together rather nicely that we'll see in successive frames. But in the meantime, let's move on to Daisy Fairy then. And she has 19 courses of assumed value and only 2 nitro courses. So this is kind of the meat and potatoes, as I would say. Most of her courses are going to be the ones that aren't locked behind specific events. So her courses can be in play really at any given time during a year. And that's what's nice about this. Granted, the overall count isn't exceptional, but having that availability makes her formidable, and her special skill is the Heart, which is ideal in multiplayer, although she is a middleweight. So really that's just an option that you'd be looking to use in online worldwide play on default item slot day, where she has top shelf, where you might not have access to another Heart user. Of course, Holiday Cheer has the Lucky 7, so she is in that favorable group of those plus skills. Then we go ahead and take a look at Yukata Daisy, and she has 20 courses of assumed value, 7 nitro courses, so 27. So we can already see the increase in courses that's taking place over time, right? The newer drivers are getting more and more courses over time. And that's especially true with Daisy Swimwear. She debuted in the summer tour last year with Cheap Cheap Island. So she also has 20 assumed value courses, but 12 are nitro courses, and a good many of these were the paywalled rank favor, right? We identified it early because what I was doing when I was studying item value progression is that when items first debut, right, they're going to receive a brand new paywalled course and likely supplemented by a level unlock for another new paywalled course, or going to have access to retro courses that are also in ranked if it's not being given 2 paywalled courses, right? And then for the next 2 tours, in the vast majority of situations for 100 Spotlight Pipe items, they will receive returning retro courses as buffs that are in ranked cups. Okay, so that's either going to be in the week 1 cup or the week 2 cup, but in most situations, so this is like greater than 80% of situations, it's going to be of the retro variety, but not the brand new paywall track variety. There are some exceptions, particularly for that 3rd tour as opposed to the 2nd tour, where it's practically non-existent. There's only been 1 or 2 cases where that has been presented, and oftentimes there's reasons for those exceptions. And then what happens is, as we get into that midterm value, as I would call it, so the 4th and 5th tour and onwards, then we start to see that the buffs for ranked favor change from that of the old returning retro courses to the brand new paywalled ones, right? So what occurred in Daisy Swimwear's progression was that she was being denied the retro buffs in that early value, short-term value period, and I identified this is impossible. They cannot let this character continue onwards in this trajectory, right? It would go from obscurity to nothingness. So it had to have favor built into its near future. So I said Daisy Swimwear is about to get hot, and that is indeed what happened, right? She went on a very nice run. So that's the context with which, we studied the item's value and their progression. So, but now we have a brand new one that can present a whole new wealth of tracks and of the new variety, right? The paywalled variety, and that comes in the way of Daisy Farmer. Her starting value is quite average. It's 9 starting tracks, 8 of which are assumed, which is good news for her long-term value in this starting tour, right? Because we have Amsterdam, but she only has access to the 1 Amsterdam course. So 8 of her other tracks are returning retro tracks. Naturally, based on these trends, we can project forward that while we can't pinpoint a very specific number of what her assumed value count will look like and what her nitro count and total track count will look like at the given time, we can see that it's likely going to end up in the 20s for assumed value and 30 plus for the overall value. Obviously, there's a range that can occur. If there's a higher concentration of assumed value courses, then the total may be lower. If there's a greater concentration of nitro value courses, as we've seen in many situations with Berto Black, DK Jr., Yoshi Kangaroo, Luigi Painter, these are all drivers that have been given in excess of nitro tracks. Well, they are still given the assumed value courses to make up for that loss of permanent value, and then the overall total can look quite impressive. So, but of course, when we're looking at the nitro value, that's only value to your account if it exists at the time when those courses come into play, right? Like Tokyo Blur doesn't matter anymore, right? If you're just getting some of these characters now, that's not being available in these tours. So how empty those calories are depends upon, when you had access to that item and how much return you got on it at those specific points in time. Now looking at what these 5 high-end Daisy variants offer in the way of course coverage overall, we can see that at level 6, they present 64 courses of top shelf value for one's account, right? And then if we were to invest into them all the way to level 8, if they have that much meaning and significance to you, that's another 4 courses, right? So that means that there's only one of the courses gained at level 8 is overlapping the entire portfolio of courses that these Daisy characters offer. So it's still adding 4 courses for a total of 68 out of the 194 assumed value courses, which accounts for 35% of these ones that are not locked behind specific events. And that is really quite good for just 5 high-end characters and with the age that these have. And a good part of the reason for why that is because only 13 courses do they exhibit overlap. So the funny thing about overlap is that there is a bit of redundancy, and that's why I focus less on the overlap number and looking more at what specific courses and the number of courses are being offered from items, right? Because while the raw overlap number is in excess of 13 courses, it is only on 13 courses where these characters collide with one another. So while 3 of the characters do come from the first year of the game, the fact that they don't run into each other very often makes them one of the better selections to have as a fan favorite character that you want to base your account around. These characters alone can power your account quite far, right? I mean, that many courses with significant investment in corresponding cart and glider investments to cover the full array of not just the courses that they inhabit, but also commonly recurring ones in the newer landscape of the game, can easily get a player to tier 60, right? Now, if you're in a position in the game where you're saying, that's all well and good, but I want to go for just a little bit more value on my account, Kevin. Like, I love the Daisy characters, but I also love competing in ranked mode, perhaps even in the all-cup rankings, right, on a more regular basis. Then what can I do to optimize my strategy with Daisy by expanding my vision to a few other characters, right? Like, which ones could I include in the puzzle to provide the maximum force and power for my account? Well, I have the answer for you right here, and that comes in the way of 2 different combinations, one for level 6 and one for level 8, and I would strongly advise on that level 6 combination for a few reasons. But overall, we'll take a look at the raw numbers here. We can see that increases the course coverage count with this optimal combination featuring Peach Explorer, Donkey Kong Jr. SNES, and Peach Halloween to 118 assumed value courses out of the 194. So now we're well over the halfway point of what we're actually covering with just 8 drivers, which is really good if you think about it. I mean, naturally, if your sole focus in the game is just optimization, one can do better, right? But tailoring the account around specific interests and then finding a selection of 3, 118 for level 6 is phenomenal, okay? And the reason why I recommend the level 6 is because if we do expand it to level 8, in which case then we still have Peach Explorer and Donkey Kong Jr. as the optimal selections, but we would swap out Peach Halloween for Penguin Luigi. So that would be a second standard high-end, since Peach Explorer is also a standard high-end. So naturally, if you don't have access to Peach Halloween, then Penguin Luigi is still going to provide a formidable option even at level 6. But just to say, it is the optimal one now at level 8. What occurs there then is the investment where they are overlapping puts into question the viability then of the Daisy characters. So from the character fan standpoint, I would recommend going to level 8 with your favorite characters and then taking the supporting characters that optimize your coverage up to level 6 rank. That way you have a very clear indication of, like, you're using your favorite character on all of their courses, and then you're using the supplemental optimized selections on all the other supporting courses. But when there is that small degree of overlap, then it's a very clear-cut choice to go with your favorite. You don't have to do it that way, but given that this much effort and forethought is being put into it, that's what makes the most sense to me, and you're free to do with it as you will. But what is really kind of cute that I thought about this was that, so we have the Daisy characters, and with the exception of the DK Jr., which just fills in, you know, a great composition of courses for this combination, we have the two other princesses falling in line with that. So my initial thought was with Draco, right? So he's a fellow YouTuber, and he carries out a similar strategy, right? He's with the Mushroom Legacy, all invested into the Peach characters and the Daisy characters. So we can see here that two Peaches in the form of Explorer and Halloween form optimal combination pairs with that of Daisy. So that right there is very optimistic for falling in line with that strategy. And it really shows the potential that something like that could have. And then, of course, along with that, if you were looking at the level 8 situation, then it's like, you know, Luigi and Daisy kind of form that couple. So I just thought that was a nice combination when looking at the data for that. If you have any further questions or comments, be sure to leave them below or share them on our Discord server. With regards to the Daisy character metagame, perhaps let me know, would you like to see more of these character analysis? If so, of which character would you like to see? I'd love to hear from you on all of that. So now let's turn our eyes over to the conclusion of week 1 in the Amsterdam Tour. Let's see how my ranked results ended, shall we? So here we go, they're on display. This was a real close one, and I had to fall asleep before the end of ranked mode. Very happy to see first place is in the bank there. So we have the Firefly and all of those rubies being added to the total now. So the last time I was on camera with you folks, I mentioned that, hey, I'm quite all right with just taking second place. But then as I was doing XP draining on Amsterdam Drift RT, I ended up getting a run, a Birdo Shell and Coin. It's quite a good run. It brought it within less than 6K difference on Rosalina's Ice World T, and I said, okay, why don't I do the investment into Rosalina? I'll take the Starry Great Sale up to level 5 now. That required 2 high-end glider tickets, so that's a net loss resource value, but the Starry Great Sale is a powerhouse not only on my account, but in optimal combinations. So I said, you know what? This makes sense to invest into something that's optimal. Got the double coin frenzy, and there you go. So that's how I recommend investing into ranked mode in case any of you out there are ever unsure, right? We're not doing it just to win, just to get the resources, right? Because the investment is going to be a net minus. So it's a consideration as what does this item do for your account, both now and in the long term? And if that checks all the boxes, then by all means, it's the proper decision to make, folks, and have fun with it. So very happy with that result, of course. Turning our sights to the second week now, I have a news bulletin to share with you. This was created by Elle, so thank you so much for putting this together. She's a wonderful member in the community. We're going to have gold login bonuses, and this one is quite bizarre. It's taking place across 2 tours. So beginning on April 29th, we're going to have access to these 10 bonuses. So this is going to run for 10 days. We'll continue on through the next tour, and a total of 30 rubies and 12,000 coins will be gifted to us across these days. So it's really a wonderful gift, and from our understanding here, it corresponds with Golden Week in Japan, which is one of their most significant holidays throughout the year. So this is quite fascinating because I was not aware of this, and now through this exposure in the game, I've now learned something new about Japanese culture. So I love that Nintendo and Mario Kart Tour is sharing this with us because not only is it good for all of our accounts, but also it's a little bit educational as well. So that's really fantastic. All right, Let's take a look at that pipe now and talk about these items in general, right? Not just the daisies. I'm going to talk about the daisy in terms of her general metagame implications, and then I'll take a look at the dragonfly and the new green sprout. Yeah, that's what it's called, the green sprout. So that one looks really cool. We'll start here actually. Green Shell Plus. So this is an interesting kind of glider. The community is very well aware that these have the potential to have an excessive amount of value given to them, right? The ones that come to mind most prominently are the Dragon Wings, which is now available in the daily selects and forms still optimal combinations of glider selections at many different combo sizes. So even though the Dragon Wings are old, the courses that they're on aren't regularly cycled in, tore in, and tore out. They still do appear, and those courses still do have value, right, folks? And the other one being the Dry Bowser Umbrella, which was really the successor to the Dragon Wings. And now we have the Green Sprout, but that's not to say that this is the only green shell glider that's come out since the Dry Bowser Umbrella, right? We've had plenty, so they all don't end up in that upper echelon of course coverage. So what are the expectations for this? Well, also you have to factor in the debut of these items, right? Like the Dragon Wings was a pack. You know, the Dry Bowser Umbrella was a pack item. So this isn't a pack item. So already, like, the kind of trajectory that we're going to be looking at this it varies from that of the two, you know, most prominent ones of that kind. And it does have 9 courses of starting value. And most of these are Coinbox courses, right? 7 of these courses will cover Coinbox. And that's a double-edged sword in itself, because the green shell is available in all of the positions that the Coinbox is, right? 1st through 6th place. So that's going to be blocking a percentage of the chance to obtain a single Coinbox as opposed to a green shell, which will have its percentage and frequency therefore increased. That's only for a single item, not for a frenzy. Frenzy is a separate calculation. While these gliders do present potentially a large magnitude of course coverage, that's not without frustration if you are playing that metagame heavy strategy with Coinbox. So this has potential to be very good. If we take a look at 100 Spotlight debut items that ended up really crushing it, most recently the Dream Glider, right? That's one that really stands out, that got significant value, but many in that position don't end up like that, okay? So I would have tempered expectations for this. It could reach the level of the Dream Glider, right? It could be right up there, but that's not a guarantee. There is a little bit of a value potential spotlight on this one. So if you do manage to get your hands on it, could be good news, but not a guarantee. Next up for the new items, we have this Dragonfly, right? This one starts off with 9 courses, but the problem here, of course, is that it has 2 city courses of value. So that means it has 7 assumed, and it only has overlap with Coinbox then on 5 out of the 7. So that's good, but it's not as good as it could be, right? And naturally, you want your Kart to be paired with Coinboxers if you're playing in a metagame centric account style, because that's going to increase the amount of actions that you can obtain on the course, which will then increase the relevance of the bonus points earned multiplier, as well as the bonus points boost too. I mean, so it's really compounded when it comes to carts. You really want your carts to exhibit courses that have large action count potential, whether that's with Coinbox or not. You know, like a course like DK Pass RT does not have Coinbox, but that's an easy 200 plus action count course. Carts that have access to that course perform phenomenally, that are greatly, significantly invested into there. So one thing that doesn't look good for the Dragonfly is that overlaps a number of metagame relevant carts. So we're talking multiple overlaps with the yellow off-roader, which many folks out there are invested in too. Overlaps with the Cactar, overlaps with the Crawley on multiple tracks, the Ramby Runner, the original off-roader. So this one's a tough sell, honestly. I mean, its value could be there, but I mean, it's going up against a lot of heavy hitters, and I think this one, unless it has access to a significant amount of highly relevant new courses that will be coming in the next couple of months, then this one's looking on the outside looking in, right? That much is for sure. So then we get to Daisy Farmer here. We already talked extensively about her in the opening for the character guide for Daisy. And the reason why I really wanted to focus on Daisy as a character more than Daisy within the metagame as a whole, because we see here just has that one Amsterdam course, right? But on all 8 of her assumed value courses, she has Coinbox overlap. So I mean, what is the viability of a character like this? It's just going to be in the form of those new paywall tracks, right? The buffs that she can get in ranked mode. Those don't go to Coinbox. Sometimes they go to Boomerang. You know, very, very rarely they'll go to Giant Banana. You see Lucky 7 in the mix, and certainly Triple Bananas, because we've seen, you know, with Daisy Swimwear, DK Jr., that's for sure. Those can be in the mix for those courses, but otherwise it's going to be these, right, with the Hammer, or, you know, the Fire Flower, the Ice Flower, you know, Bob-omb Cannon, don't we all know that one? So that's where her value is going to be most prominent. So definitely a character fan favorite. Minimal relevance in the overall metagame, but will still present value at some point. But then the question is, if you are a player that is invested so heavily into the metagame, there's likely going to be other options that will present value to you on those courses that aren't, you know, Coinbox, Giant Banana, Lucky 7, and those. So that's my assessment of the brand new value in this, and really this older value here doesn't present a lot. You know, her relevance, as we stated before, for Daisy Fairy is going to be in multiplayer, but that's still limited. This glider, which I actually picked up a few tours ago in today's challenge pipe, it's really not bad. It's a standard high end, so this is one that you don't need to pull on the pipe for, but it does have pretty nice value, and it has had a selection of newer courses where it received ranked buffing favor for. We see the Vanilla Lake 2T, RMX Ghost Valley 1RT, so these are all within, you know, the last 6 months or so, and then of course it's had the Amsterdam this tour. So since it is standard, it's not going to be receiving a lot of these brand new courses, right? But the overall composition of it's one of the stronger standard high-end gliders. And then the Prancer cart, this one's been around the block, really hasn't received much new value. We can see the previous brand new paywall track it had was another Nitro course. This is like 10 months ago that was received. So the Prancer is probably the least appealing, although it is visually, aesthetically pleasing to look at. So it does have that going for it. So I guess everything has something going for it with regards to this pipe. So let's just fire away the freebies now, and then we'll just give a few thoughts ahead of going into, you know, what we'll be receiving a new tour preview, as well as I'll be firing off my token shop pipes, but I haven't gotten there completely. So let's see what the first freebie is. We got a green pipe. Another normal. Been kind of cold on these for the most part. So we get a second greenie here. Well, picked up a relative at least. So, for ranked mode this week, what are you folks going to be looking at? For me, I'm going to be sandbagging this week, and not just because of the scores here. My loadouts are not really significant here, and we can see what this min-maxing approach has been doing for my account. You know, I've been powering forward with first place finishes. Granted, this past week was by the skin of my teeth, largely because my loadouts weren't up to snuff. You know, I had the bottom shelf cart, the level 1 driver on another course, in addition to the returning retro course that was in ranked mode. It was one of the newer ones, so only my glider was really powerful in that. You know, I had a limited level 3 super driver to work with, which I upgraded. So, you know, here, these aren't my actual loadouts. These are multiplayer runs that I did, but smart situation to go with if you're not on the wheel. That is, you know, trying to get to the highest tier that you possibly can, to really monitor your position and where your count's at with the kinds of opponents you're receiving. And it's okay to fall down a tier, folks, because progress you give up now can be obtained easier at a later point in time. And what this does is it creates a fertile ground for you to control the kinds of resources you're getting at the moment that you would like to receive them at. A lot more control than if you're always trying to maximize on the wheel, because at some points you will just hit the wall, particularly if you are free to play or gold pass only with limited resource acquisition. Then sometimes you're just going to be out of luck and not going to be able to proceed further with that. So, and then the other benefit that that has is that it conserves resources in your inventory, and then you can really storm forward once you put those resources to use, right? Like, I have enough resources in my account to go, you know, well up into the high tier 60s, or to make a very significant run at the All Cup ranking. So just taking a look at the loadouts once again, we can see that the week 2 items are in play here, as well as the Nabbit me suit that's also available. If you want to see my me hour, go back and check out my reaction for the Amsterdam tour. But we have last tour's ranked reward with King Boo, actually 2 tours ago now, with King Boo's me suit, and then we have the Painter Luigi here. We can see actually that that ranked reward for week 1 is coming in good here, because that opens up top shelf access. And actually another cart that the Dragonfly overlaps with is the Flower Cart. This one right here from week 1, which has a massive sized hitbox, so just more competition for it. And then the Daisy Glider. So I do have top shelf here, a 2-1-1 loadout, pretty weak by tier 58 standards. Then we're taking a look at Sunset Wilds RT. I have a bunch of standard high-end options in Toadette Explorer here, but the most prominent option for you will likely be the Yellow Toad Pit Crew, because it unlocks this course at level 3. And certainly, being super tickets are not at the same premium as high-end tickets, this is going to be the one that you may want to invest in the most. And there's certainly a lot of cause for that, because if we go over to the carts, we can see there's the yellow off-roader. So many players, in fact, are invested into that. If not, you have the red B Dasher, which is a standard high-end and one of the stronger value standard high-ends there. So, and then the Dry Bowser Umbrella. So this is a very strong glider to possess. Many of you already have it at high level. It's not currently in the optimal combination of gliders, you know, beyond a sample size of 3, but still it has a significant amount of value. We could see it coming up in courses like this time and time again. So 3-6-1 loadout. Again, this is nothing, I have no leverage over what the group can present. Now we have Amsterdam T, so we also have the driver here. I managed to acquire the silver me racing suit by draining out the XP on the Amsterdam tracks in week 1. So but this is where Daisy Farmer comes in, and then you have the Pink Shy Guy. So many folks pulled for Pink Shy Guy. It's going to be carrying you this week, which is really cool. And the Charge and Chuck too. So a lot of recent options that are very good are going to be able to power you through this week. And then we have the Carrot Cart. It's been on fire, right? And then you have the Dragonfly. A lot of options that are available here. And then for the gliders, really pretty exclusive stuff outside of that green sprout. So would I recommend polling for ranked? Absolutely not. Only poll if the Daisy character has any significance to you. I wouldn't even poll on this one as kind of like a a flux value alert type of situation, because we have other drivers that have been presented as such recently, such as Whitebirdo. So the competition is going to be there, and there will be more in the future too. So she will have her value, that much is for sure, but there will be other options for you. You don't have to go into every single 100 pipe where there could be future value alerts. And that's where I think I'll leave off things for this episode. So I do hope that you found all this to be insightful, improve the understanding and direction of your sense of your own game experience in Mario Kart Tour. We have a lot of fun here. Please do share your support with the channel. Drop a like and subscribe. I'll be seeing you all soon. Take care, everybody.